Welcome to Wallace on Wire. Today we're talking about the recent political developments in Sabah. Specifically, we are zooming in on the aftermath of the 17th Sabah state election. I mean, the ballots have been counted, the victory parties are over, and now we get to the hard part, the reality of governing. And that reality is the new Sabah state cabinet. This is really where you see who gets power, who gets left out, and, what all those pre-election promises were actually worth.
Exactly. And that last point, political promises, it's precisely why this new cabinet lineup is making so many waves. It was sworn in at Istana Seri Kinabalu. And when you look at the final list, the list of the 10 members, there's one really glaring omission.
A huge one.
Yeah, zero ethnic Chinese representation. And this isn't just a coincidence. It's a direct contradiction of a very public commitment made by the new chief minister himself, Dato Seri Hajiji, just weeks earlier.
It creates this immediate tension right at the start of his new administration. I mean, we saw the ceremony. It was a big deal. You had the chief minister, Dato Seri Hajiji, presiding over it. The Sabah state governor was there. Even the chief justice of Sabah and Sarawak was present, which, really shows how serious this was meant to be. But for a lot of people watching, that whole formal event just clashed with the memory of that one specific pledge.
It absolutely did. And we should be very clear about what that promise was.
Mhm.
Back in September, Dato Seri Hajiji had stated, pretty much crystal clear, that if his coalition, the Gabungan Rakyat Sabah, won power, an ethnic Chinese elected representative would be appointed as a deputy chief minister, not just a minister, a deputy chief minister. That's a specific high-level promise.
And what we got was, well, not only was there no Chinese deputy chief minister, the entire cabinet, all 10 posts, had no ethnic Chinese minister at all. It goes from a broken promise to something bigger. As a voter, you have to ask yourself, what does that say about political commitments right after a big win? Does it mean coalition politics just always trumps promises of inclusivity?
Well, to understand the decision, you first have to look at the election results themselves, because that's part of the story.
Right. I mean, if there were simply no elected ethnic Chinese representatives available for them to pick from, the Gabungan Rakyat Sabah government might have had some kind of excuse, right?
They might have. But that's not what happened. The opposition coalition, Pakatan Harapan, did field several Chinese candidates. They didn't win any seats, so that narrowed the field.
Okay, so the opposition pool was empty.
Correct. But, and this is the crucial part, this is where the government's argument completely falls apart.
Because their own coalition did have a winner.
Precisely. Within the ruling Gabungan Rakyat Sabah alliance itself, one ethnic Chinese candidate did win his seat. That was Datuk Teo Chibin. He won the Tanjung Kapur state seat, running under the Sabah People's Alliance, which is a key part of the winning coalition.
So let's just pause on that for a second. You have an elected, loyal member of your own team. He represents the very demographic you promised to elevate to a deputy chief minister post. And when the cabinet is announced, he's not just denied the DCM job, he gets no ministerial post whatsoever.
The math is just brutal, isn't it? One elected representative from the winning side leads to zero cabinet seats. It makes the whole thing feel less like an accident of politics and more like a conscious strategic decision.
Which brings us to the main question. If representation was sacrificed, what was it sacrificed for? We have to look at who actually got the power to understand the trade-off.
Exactly. You have to dissect the cabinet lineup. Because it's not a reflection of Sabah's diversity, it's a political map of who needed to be kept happy for the coalition to survive.
Okay, so let's start at the top. We have Datuk Seri Hajiji as chief minister. But the real story is in the 3 deputy chief minister posts. These are the glue holding the whole thing together.
Look at who got them. The first deputy chief minister is Datuk Seri Jojin Kunsalam. He's the president of the Sabah United Party, a huge ally for Gabungan Rakyat Sabah. He was also made Minister of Works.
Minister of Works, wow. So that's infrastructure, state contracts, big projects. That's a massive portfolio.
Huge. Then, the second Deputy Chief Minister, Datuk Seri Masidi Manjun, he's the Deputy President of the GRS People's Interest Party, another core component, his portfolio, Minister of Finance.
Okay, so that's the state's entire budget, the purse strings. And in any government, that's arguably the most powerful seat after the chief minister.
No question. And the third Deputy Chief Minister slot went to Datuk Yuan Benedict. He's the president of the United Progressive Kinabalu Organization, or UPKO, and he got Minister of Industrial, Entrepreneurship, and Transport Development.
So you have works, finance, and industrial development. Basically, the entire economic engine of Sabah, all locked up by the leaders of the 3 most important parties in the coalition.
And there you have it. That's the trade-off. The promise of representation was competing directly with the political need to reward the leaders of these key parties to keep them on board. There just wasn't a fourth DCM spot left for the Chinese representative.
The internal stability of the coalition just took absolute priority.
It had to. Now let's look at the other 7 ministers, because that shows how they tried to reward other allies and even bring in some rivals.
Okay, so we have Minister of Housing and Local Government Development. That went to Dato from the GRS People's Interest Party, so another key post for them.
But then you see a really interesting move. Datuk Jamawi Jafar was made Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries. He's from the Pakatan Harapan Justice Party.
Wait, that's an opposition party?
It is. So by bringing in someone from a rival party, they're maybe trying to create a sort of unity government feel, or at the very least weaken the opposition by poaching a key figure.
And that's a very telling choice. They prioritized bringing in a member of the opposition over appointing their own coalition's elected Chinese member.
It tells you everything about their priorities.
Yeah.
Politics over promises. So, continuing the list, Datuk Ruben Belang from Gabungan Rakyat Sabah got Minister of Rural Development. Datuk James Ratib, also from Gabungan Rakyat Sabah, got Minister of Science, Technology, and Innovation.
And what about Barisan National? They're a key partner.
They got a piece of the pie. Datuk Jaffrey Arifin from Barisan National UMNO was appointed Minister of Tourism, Culture, and Environment. Very visible ministry.
Makes sense.
And finally, you have Datuk Julita from the Sabah United Party as Minister of Women, Health, and Social Development, and Datuk Nizam from the GRS People's Interest Party as Minister of Youth and Sports. Every single one of those appointments, when you map it out, is tied to a party and the coalition's internal hierarchy. It's all about paying political debts.
It's unavoidable when you look at it like that. The lone ethnic Chinese representative was just collateral damage in that zero-sum game of coalition management.
Which has some serious implications for public trust in Sabah. I mean, what message does it send when a major demographic group looks at the state's top decision-making body and sees nobody that represents them directly?
It creates a vacuum, doesn't it? We get the political logic stability today is better than a collapse tomorrow, but the cost of that stability is carried by the people who feel their promised voice has been completely ignored.
And the irony is they could have fulfilled the promise. They could have given Datuk Teo Chi Bin any ministry, even if it wasn't the deputy chief minister spot. But by giving every single slot to a party leader or key ally, they basically signaled that the Gabungan Rakyat Sabah alliance is a machine focused on itself first, and broad representation second, or maybe third.
So this is now the challenge for Datuk Seri Hajiji. How does he regain the trust of that community, knowing his government was built on a choice that left them outside the room where decisions are made?
It's a classic political bind. You pay off your allies to survive today. But if the price of that survival is breaking a major public promise, it really hurts your credibility to govern tomorrow.
So to wrap this all up, the new Sabah cabinet is really defined by this balancing act. The 3 deputy chief minister posts holding the keys to the economy were the price of keeping the coalition stable. And the result of that trade-off is the total lack of ethnic Chinese representation, which is a direct contradiction of what Chief Minister Datuk Seri Hajiji promised before the election.
And moving forward, the question you have to ask is this. In a place as diverse as Sabah, when the need to manage internal politics leads to the exclusion of an entire demographic, does the stability you get justify the long-term damage to public trust? It's a question about the very nature of political accountability.
A crucial question indeed as we watch how this new administration in Sabah moves forward. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.